Hi everybody, Dr. John McGrail. Welcome to A Better You in a Minute or Two. And I'm going to start today's edition out with a question. 2, 4, 6, 8. How well do you communicate? And the answer is probably not very well at all. Now, when I pose that question to a group of workshop students and I give the answer just like I did, I usually get a lot of indignant responses. Dr. John, how can you say that? We have all this amazing technology. We have smartphones, we have iPads, we have Nooks, and we have all these social media platforms, Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, and on the list goes. We can communicate in more ways than we ever could before. What do you mean? And I say, well, you're right. We do have all this technology, and we have learned to rely on that technology for most of our interpersonal communication. And we do most of it via text or email. And that's where we get into trouble. So you might say, well, what's so bad about that? Well, in order to understand the potential here, let's take a look at a message, a piece of communication, and see what it's made up of. In any message or communication, we have first and foremost the words, the actual language that we're using. Then we have what's called tonality, the tone, the timbre, the pace, the volume of the voice. And finally, we have physiology, which is body language, facial expression, eye movements, changes in skin tone, some of which can be minute but are very important parts. Now, if we take these three constituents of a message and break them down by percentage, it gets even more interesting. The words in any given message are only 7% of the message. Think about that. When you send a text, you're only sending 7% of the message, leaving 93% of your message up for interpretation. That's an awful lot of information to fill in, and the potential for error is huge. If you at least get on the telephone, we can include the tonality, which, as you can see, is 38%. So, on the telephone, we're delivering 45% of our message, but we're leaving out the vast majority, which is physiology, the body language, those tiny little movements that we don't even perceive at a conscious level make up most of our message. Now, even if you use Skype or Zoom or one of the other video programs, these tiny little physiological responses and nuances in communication are so small you can't see them on screen, yet your mind registers them subconsciously. So what does this all mean? It means you have to be more careful with your communication. Recently, I worked with a magazine writer. I think it was for Reader's Digest, or it might have been Redbook, I'm not sure. But this writer was doing an article on how technology is actually isolating us more than it can bring us together. And I do believe in some cases that's true. And she asked me to compile a list of things that you should never, ever say via text or email. And I'm going to share that list with you because I hope it's going to help you in the future. And I think some of these will be blatantly obvious, but I'm going to share them anyway. First of all, never say this via text or email. We have to talk. Well, what does that mean? Given the fact that most people in our society think negatively, when they get that message, they're going to start thinking, ooh, this isn't good. And it may or may not be. But then you've got somebody that's all wigged out about something they may not need to be. Here's another one. I love you. Come on, guys and gals. I love you is one of the most magic phrases that human beings can ever share. You never want to say that, especially for the first time, or if it's really early in the relationship, via a text or an email. If you've been married for 20 years and you're going to the store and you're just thanking your spouse, hey, thanks for going to the store, honey, I love you, great. But when it's the first time or very early on, be there. It's a magic moment. You want to be there for the whole message. Here's another one. I'm pregnant. Ooh. Is that good news or bad news? And how is the other person going to take it? This is a message that you really don't want to leave up to interpretation, because it can make things go so sideways so quickly it's unbelievable. Or there's more. I want a divorce. Or I'm breaking up with you. Or, will you marry me? You don't say that via text or email, yet people do. These are really big messages. They deserve to be delivered in 100% of the way. In business, you're fired, or I'm changing the deal, or backing out of the deal. These are the kinds of messages too. In a business situation, if you're firing someone for cause, or you're changing a deal, or backing out, or doing something, that person deserves the whole message. Delivering any bad personal news about an illness or a death can be really, really catastrophic if you do it via text or email. How is that person going to respond? Do they have someone to support them at the other end? And if you have to wait for a text or email back, they may have fainted. So deliver bad news in person, at the very least by telephone. And finally, be very careful about sharing any intimate or personal sensitive information about yourself via text or email. First of all, you don't know how the other person is going to respond. They're filling in 93% of the message. And what if you hit send and then realize that you had the wrong person in the send column or the recipient? And you know that's happened. Bottom line, be careful with your important communications. The reason we became rulers of the planet, part of it anyway, was because of our ability to communicate on a very subtle, nuanced level. When we rely on technology with texts or emails, we lose most of that. When you communicate more carefully and better, I can guarantee you your relationships with your friends, your family, and your loved ones are going to get better. And as your relationships with your friends and your families and your loved ones get better, your life is going to get better. And as your life gets better, guess what? That's a really good thing. Because remember, it's always about a better you. Until next time, so long.